Hi everyone, welcome to this month's live Q&A session. The next question is how to get more engagement and followers on Pinterest. Now again, this is a very broad question, and again it can really differ based on who you are, what your niche is, and what strategy you should follow. But there are a couple of things that you can look at specifically when we're talking about how to overall increase the engagement and followers on your account. So the first thing that you want to be doing is definitely creating content that people want to engage with. And I say this over and over again, and I'm sure that you've probably come across me saying this within the course as well. Without creating content that is going to get you that click, it doesn't matter what tactic or what strategy you follow, that's just not going to work. Which is why I highly recommend that you go through our masterclass on viral blog post hacks. And I believe you can find it in the traffic section inside the course. I think it's phase 4 or phase 5. I'm not sure exactly where we've placed this masterclass. But if you search for viral blog posts, you will find all my tips on how to look for viral content. And by viral, I don't necessarily mean content that is going like getting you hundreds and thousands of page views every month. By viral, I mean finding content which is high in demand and making sure you leverage that in a smart way on Pinterest. Another thing that you need to be doing when it comes to, really increasing and boosting the engagement of your account is that you have to be A/B testing. Now, A/B testing in marketing simply means that you test two different things and you split test them to see which one performs better. Now, you can A/B test your content, which is, like I said, the first and most important thing, absolutely. The second test that you can create is on your pins. So is my pin performing better when I, let's say, have this title, or is it performing better when I have this title? Same thing goes for designs and images as well. So when I use this font and these colors, are my pins performing better? Or when I use this font and this color, are my pins performing better? And another thing that I would highly recommend any new account, specifically right now to try on Pinterest, is to actually go into and look for promoting more than just one content format. So don't just stick to promoting image pins or just doing the same stuff that you're doing over and over again, but also hop onto the whole idea pins, video pins, and try to see if you can also leverage that in your strategy. And we have trainings for that as well inside the academy. Next question is from Nicole, who asks about her wedding photography client. So here inside the Pinfluencer Academy, we only help you grow your own accounts because we don't know the relationship that you have with your client. And without knowing more information about who your client is, what they do, and what their work is all about, it's very hard for me to give you generic feedback. But I'm going to make an exception here because I feel like this is something that a lot of initial Pinterest VAs or managers might be having an issue with. And that is that they're trying to do everything. They're doing all the tactics, but nothing is working. So she says she's spinning 15 times a day with 3 to 5 fresh pins. She's doing idea pins. She's doing tribes. She's doing keyword research. And she started at 30,000 and now is at 75,000. But she wants to be at 1 million plus. And she's not sure what to do that will boost it faster. Now, here's the thing. 1 million plus is first of all a vanity metric because you can have 1 million impressions and you can have like 10 clicks coming to your account every month. I've seen that happen with client accounts, so I would not be surprised at all. What your client or what you need to communicate is that the value on Pinterest does not come from the vanity number. It comes from how much traffic, how many sales, and how many leads you're generating for their business. And that's, I think, the more important metric to calculate here. So I would recommend you look into the Google Analytics of the said account. You look into the Pinterest Analytics and you see what is working there. Rest assured, if you have an account which you have grown from 30,000 to 75,000 and it has a bunch of pins already in place, you have access to so much data. So I would go into the analytics section, analytics lesson inside the academy, and I would really see how I analyze analytics based on what are the pins that are performing well, which video pins or idea pins are doing well, what are the color combinations that are doing well. Is an image pin doing better on the account, or is a text pin doing better on the account? And just by knowing that your client is in a wedding photography niche, the thing is, a lot of photographers only promote images on their account, and that's not a bad thing because that's what their business is about. But the problem is when you promote images of people, you don't drive engagement through those pins, because just think about it. If you're looking for a wedding photographer, you're probably not going to save random people's photos, like intimate photos, in your Pinterest board, right? Which means that you're not going to click through, you're going to like it, and you're maybe going to say, wow, this is awesome, and blah, blah. But you're not going to click through to it and see the big picture, and you're not really going to click through and see, okay, who's the photographer who did this? So you have to be a bit more strategic about the content you're creating and what is the purpose of them growing their Pinterest account. So if the purpose, which I assume must be, if this person is a photographer, is to get more leads and to get more sales, because I guess 1 million is just not a vanity metric, it should be giving you some results in your business. In that case, I would actually have an honest conversation with them and sit down with them and talk and say, okay, what's your aim with this, and can we create a content strategy around that aim? Because if your aim is just to promote all the Instagram photos or all the photos that your photographer takes, great. Then you can have a account with just photos, but then be okay with the fact that it's not going to reach a lot of people. It's not going to get a lot of engagement, because people by nature are not going to do much with those photos, and those photos are not going anywhere, right? Or at least they're not directing the people where to go. And that's where I think it's always important to have a holistic strategy when it comes to Pinterest. Don't just create one type of pin or one type of content format, specifically when it comes to image pins. And by image pins, I mean pins which have no text. They're just photos that you upload and you just promote them. Sometimes that can work if you're someone who's already established in the industry. Maybe you started with 10,000 followers. So, yes, that can work. And if you have a large network and you send traffic from your email list or Instagram, sure, that can work. But if you're just starting from scratch on Pinterest and all you're doing is promoting photos of a particular client or photo shoots, it's going to take you a while before you get that traction, because what you're missing out is actual clicks and engagements. And so that's why you need to rethink your content strategy, and you need to have a conversation with your client about how to create a content strategy that addresses their main goal, which might be traffic, which might be leads, it could be anything else. Rest assured, I think once you do that, and you have this conversation and you look into the data of this person's account, you will have more access into what is actually going wrong. Next question we have is from Sandra, who says, how do I create product pins? Do I have to choose them from somewhere? So we have an entire training on product pins in phase 6. I don't know if you've been through it, but I highly recommend that you do. In general, product pins will have two types of pins. They're going to be one, either the pins that you have of your own product, right? So let's say that you are in the Etsy crochet stitching niche, right? So DIY niche. So you're going to be taking photos that you have already taken of yours, and you are going to be promoting them, photos of your products that you've already clicked, and you're going to be promoting them on Pinterest. However, there's also another type of product pin where you are, for example, creating a blog post and then you're just tagging the product that you have in that pin, as in you're tagging the URL of that particular pin. And we also have pins where you might be an affiliate for someone and you're sharing their images. The key thing to remember here is that any of these things can be a product pin as long as a product is tagged in that pin. So a product pin is not a product pin because it says product. That's not the point of the product pin. The product pin is a product pin because it tags you to a product and it links to a website where you can go and buy something. Whether that is Etsy or that is Shopify or that is your own online store, it doesn't matter. Point is that there should be some kind of product tagged to that pin, which is what makes it a product pin. So it is a question of function and not of aesthetics. The other thing to keep in mind is that you should not be picking images which are from random websites, or let's say that you're picking, for example, you're promoting a certain product and you're picking up pictures from somebody else's website or from Google or Unsplash or something, because when you're selling products, you want to be making sure that you have the copyright to those images and you're only promoting images on Pinterest that you have the right for. So you don't want to be getting into a copyright infringement with anyone on Pinterest, which is why I highly recommend that you look into that. If you are specifically, maybe picking up images from somewhere else, don't do that unless you have the permission to do that as well. Next question is all about, can you make 100 pins with the same listing, with the same description, by just changing the color of the text and image? And I think somebody else in the Facebook group also recently asked this question. Does it count as a fresh pin? Now, here's the thing. Pinterest in their official statement said that it is going to be a fresh pin if you just change the text, if you just change the image of the pin. So in principle, yes, if you just change the image of the pin, and even if you link it to the same URL or to the same posting, that's counted as a fresh pin. But what Pinterest says and what it triggers, in terms of spam is completely different. So here's the thing. If you're creating 100 pins with the same, with the same description and the same title, what's going to happen over time is that it's going to trigger the spam filter on Pinterest, because whenever the Pinterest crawlers try to crawl that pin, they're just going to come across the same description, the same title, and the same thing, right? And sure, your image is going to be different. Maybe you have 100 photos of the same sweater that you want to post. That's great. But you still want to make sure that you're at least slightly changing the description. So when it comes to your pin description and to your image, one thing that you absolutely need to do to make a fresh pin count officially is to have a new image. But the other thing that you also need to do is that you need to slightly tweak the description. It doesn't matter if it's just 2 or 3 words, just flip out one sentence. And I get it, we are all short on time. We don't want to be putting 100 pins in a day. And I think nobody should be doing that because that's crazy. But if you are someone who feels like, okay, I want to schedule all my pins for the next 1 month and I want to do it in a smart way, sure, go ahead, create 100 images which are all different so that they're considered fresh pins. And then when you go one by one on creating the descriptions, just tweak the description slightly. Maybe add some new hashtags. Maybe change out a word, add some synonyms. The idea here is to not trigger the spam filter on Pinterest, because that's what you don't want to do, because that is going to lead to your account eventually being either suspended or banned. And you don't want to do that if you're, for example, I guess in your case, you have an Etsy store, so you don't want to do that, right? That's why I would recommend slightly tweaking the description. Doesn't have to be a complete change. You don't have to be like a genius who comes up with a new description each time, but you do need to be making small changes. Next question is a pin with an animated arrow considered a video pin? Principally, yes. Okay, it is going to be a video pin because it's going to have that play button there. But it's like the laziest version of creating a video pin. And sure, you can do it, and some people have had success with it. But in my opinion, most people who have success with it are either testing it out as a sponsored pin, which is that they have ad money behind it, or they're leading to video. They're leading to some kind of like content, which is like a blog or a magazine. When you have product pins and when you have, for example, pins that you're showcasing, it's much better, or you have any kind of business that you promote on Pinterest, it is so much better to actually have a real video instead of just have like a sparkling thing come up or like a boom boom flash sale or whatever. And sure, you can do it, but what I always recommend, and specifically when you're starting out and you don't have any kind of like traction on Pinterest, I always recommend trying two videos. Try one video with the animated element that you want to try as a video pin, and try the next video as a non-animated animated element and put an actual video there. So what you can do is, for example, create videos of, let's say, behind the scenes content. How do you create your patterns? How do you package them? How do you ship them, right? So since you have a product-based business, there's so much video content that you can create, and you don't even have to show up your face in it. You can just do sort of like a back to camera kind of content. But I would recommend trying out both of these things. And my intuitive feel for this type of business is that it is going to be the actual video pins with real videos that perform better because they engage better, right? Just think about it yourself. What are you more likely to engage with, let's say on Pinterest? Are you going to engage with a pin that has a sparkling star, or are you going to engage with a pin that shows you the step-by-step XYZ process of something and you're like, wow, this is so cool, I'm going to go and buy her sweater, okay? So think about it also as a user. Like when you are a user, what do you relate to? And whenever you're creating pins, don't just think of like dumping them on the platform. Think of what they're going to do for you. So how are they going to drive engagement for you? How are they going to drive clicks for you? And how is somebody supposed to click on a pin which just has a small star on it? Like what kind of engagement should that pin be driving, right? Or if you just have an animated arrow jumping up and down, like what is it? Like sure, you meet the criteria of uploading that video pin, but it doesn't drive any engagement for you. It doesn't get any saves. It doesn't get any pins. It doesn't get any close-ups. It doesn't get any outbound clicks. So essentially you just did it because you wanted to have a video pin in your strategy, right? Again, no shade if it works for you, and in some cases it may work, but I think when it comes to video pins, it does not hurt for you to actually create pins with videos. And you can use Canva, you can use the free account to come up with stock videos and just promote that as well. Next question is from Hatoxi, who says, can I promote Pinterest on my blog? Now, here's the thing. Pinterest, it does not have an affiliate platform. So it would be like promoting Google on your blog. Like, sure, you can do that, but you don't earn anything from it. You don't make any money from it. So if your aim is to do affiliate marketing, I would recommend that you either create a website and get into some other affiliate programs like Amazon, Share a Sale, etc., or you get into affiliate programs which don't require you to have a site. So there are lots of affiliate programs that you can Google in your niche that don't require you to have a website. So maybe you can get started there and just sort of go and see if you can promote those on Pinterest without having to promote content-based stuff first. But promoting Pinterest in and of itself isn't going to do much because it will just get people back on the platform. How do you win, right? And I want you to win. I want you to be successful. So I want you to be a little bit more strategic when you're thinking about monetizing your website. All right, next question is, I get impressions on my pins, but 99% of them don't click. What could be the problem? Again, a very good question. And I think a lot of people at the beginning, when they haven't really nailed their strategy, have this problem. Now, here's the thing that might be going wrong. So assuming that you know how to design pins and you have taken all the lessons that we've taught inside the academy and you're creating pins that are appealing to look at, aesthetically pleasing and all of that, there are two main things that might be going wrong with your pins, specifically why they're not getting clicks. So I think that one of the things that you need to implement and at least to improve is your content. Because here's the thing: at the end of the day, people come to your Pinterest account to read content, to engage with content, or to maybe check out a product, right? And if your content is just something that is not in demand, it is not something that people are interested in, they're not going to click. It doesn't matter how beautiful your pin is, it can be the most amazing thing to walk on the face of earth, but if they are not interested in the topic of that pin, they're not going to click, right? So when you have a high impression but a low click through rate, that means that your pin is doing well SEO wise, like you're optimizing your pin well and you're doing all of the main things, like the functional things, but you're not hitting the bullseye when it comes to content. So you need to be experimenting more with your content. You need to be experimenting more with the topics specifically that you're creating. And the second thing, also very, very important, that you need to be working on is the headline or the title of your content. And this is something that I go into a lot of detail in my course CEO Blogger Academy, which we're going to launch soon. In that course, we really dive into the formation of how you create headlines which actually stand out and which actually get clicks. So it's as simple as something like, for example, if you say like, check out this destination, and then you have another pin which says the 10 destinations that you have to visit before you die. Like there's a huge difference between these two headlines, and by anybody who has even slightly an emotional affinity towards things will probably pick the second topic, right? Because the first one isn't interesting enough. It just kind of falls boring. It kind of falls flat. So again, I would recommend you to first of all look on keyword, like do a little bit more of keyword research, see what is the content that is trending in your niche, check out your competitors, bigger influencers, bigger bloggers, bigger affiliate marketers, whichever niche you're in, and see what is the content that they're doing that's doing really well. And next thing I would recommend you to do is to go through step by step to the viral blog post masterclass that we also have as a bonus inside the academy. I believe it is in the traffic section. So after the traffic strategies, you should find it. That's where I really walk you through thinking about content that will actually get clicks. But without knowing anything about your account, and maybe the next time if you have a question, guys, please link your Pinterest account so I can actually have a look. I think my main two issues would be: one, your content is falling flat, it's not doing much for your audience, and two, your headline or the title that you have on the pin is not interesting enough for people to click through. So fix those, and then let's talk again in the next call if you see an improvement on it as well. All right, somebody asked, how do I claim my website with GoDaddy? So here's the thing, every hosting company has a different process, and every hosting company has different tech behind it. I'm not a developer, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what's wrong with your site and how to fix that. Specifically not for GoDaddy, because I have experience with SiteGround and HostGator and WordPress, so I am not an expert in this. But I would also add a link below this call once it's over for you to check out the Pinterest help desk article. But I think whenever you have an issue related to your hosting, so related to who's hosting your site, you should always contact the people which are actually involved there. So you should be checking out or emailing the GoDaddy tech support and see what they have to say about this, because I can promise you, you're not the first one facing this issue. There'll be lots of people who they've probably helped before. And ideally, if you're paying for a host every month, they should be helping you with this, right? Because you're paying for their service. So ideally, I ask them to help you with the claiming site issue account. Tell them what you've done so far, and then let them know how you can actually get it fixed. Usually every host, at least in my experience, will help you figure out the most easy and tech straightforward way of doing it. And sometimes they will even do it for you, which is awesome. Next question is what to do if you don't have a website yet. So can you promote any social media links, for example, social media for service-based entrepreneurs? Absolutely, yes, you can. But keep in mind that, like I said, Pinterest is a platform where people are used to looking for either information or they're used to looking for products, right? So they're either looking to click out to see a website with some content on it, like blog posts, or they're looking to, for example, buy a product, right? So they're looking to go into a shop and get something. So in essence, of course, you can do it. And I would go about it in this way, that you can actually figure out two ways in which you can promote every social media platform. So let's say you want to promote Instagram or Facebook. What I would do is I would create two different strategies. One strategy would be for posting just your page. So the URL of your page on Facebook or Instagram, you can share that and you can connect that to some creative content that you have. So you would send some traffic over to Instagram. Second thing you can do is you can create content which is specific to the individual posts. And the easiest way for you to do it is, for example, just log into somebody's Facebook or Instagram account. If that's your own, that's great. and download the Pinterest browser button that you have on Chrome, or if you have Safari or whatever browser you're using, there will be a Pinterest button that you can download. And then what you will do is you're simply going to go scroll to the Facebook or Instagram post, and you're going to go on that Pinterest hover button, and you're going to save it to that client's or your Pinterest account. What it does is it saves you a heck of a lot of time in uploading pins and photos. And second, you can directly create the right descriptions, you can create the right hashtags, you can create the right strategy there and then. This is something I absolutely love doing for specifically visual based content. So when it comes to platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter, okay, to some extent, yes, you can promote tweets. But specifically when it comes to LinkedIn and Facebook, they don't really do that well when you link the post to Pinterest. But I think Instagram, YouTube, and also TikTok, these three platforms do really, really well. So if you don't have a website yet, you can get started with promoting these particular, either the direct page, but of course the direct page can only do so much. So I would actually have a strategy for creating boards which are specifically directing traffic to the specific posts. So let's say you have on Instagram two different types of posts. You create content for, let's say, clothing, and then you also create content for self-development. So maybe you can create two boards on Pinterest, and you can save all of the social media content over there. And the easiest way for you to do it is to log into your desktop, go in, open these two tabs, and get the Pinterest save button on your browser, and then just go ahead and do it, because that's like the fastest way of promoting it. But absolutely, you can use Pinterest to promote your social media, and I think it's something that I highly recommend that you do, specifically if you feel like you are, let's say, hitting the wall with Instagram or with any other social media, and you're like, oh my god, can I get some more eyeballs, can I get some more organic traffic going? So you can absolutely do that as well. All right, let's see if we have any more questions, and if I missed any of the questions so far. Going back to the niche too broad question, I think somebody did not give me the name, but they said it was about Puppy Digital Planner. Maybe you can link to your profile next time so I can actually see which niche you're talking about, because it's really hard for me to give you feedback without knowing what this niche is all about. And I don't know what the Puppy Digital Planner niche is all about, so I don't know what your account is all about. I don't know exactly how to help you, with that. Another question on not getting clicks. So yes, the main reason why your pins are not getting clicks, like I said before, is probably in your content. And I think if you're confused, you can absolutely put on the Facebook wall and give us two different options and say, hey, this is number one, this is pin number one that I want to promote, and this is pin number two that I want to promote. Which do you think is better? Like, use the Facebook group to ask for feedback from the community. And you can do the same thing with blog posts as well. Like, guys, I'm thinking of two different blog post ideas. Which one do you think is going to do better? Or which video pin do you think is going to take off, right? So you don't need to just be having this conversation in your brain when you have the community support as well. I or my team might not always be able to give you feedback, but we have a group for a reason. So if you are, for example, confused between the content you're creating, just post it on the wall and say, okay guys, these are two pins that I really like, or these are the two pins that I created, and could you give me feedback on which pin is going to do better, or could you give me feedback on which of these pins you like more. And you'll see a lot of people, or for example, also a lot of YouTubers do this as well, when they basically put like two different thumbnails, and they will say, hey, which thumbnail do you like better? But of course, if you don't have your own audience and you don't have your own large group, or you don't have somewhere to ask feedback, your friends are maybe not bloggers or online business owners, then you leverage this group. Just put it on the group, guys, I'm thinking about these two ideas or these two pins. Which do you think is going to resonate more? Or which board idea, which board title do you think is going to resonate more? And I'm sure the community will be more than happy to help you as well. So definitely make sure to do that, specifically when you're confused about your content and you don't know what you should be pinning. Another question from Hatoxi about joining a domain in GoDaddy. So here's the thing. I think some of us are maybe being a little bit confused about what hosting is all about and what having a domain is all about. And again, this is something that I cover in my blogging course, but I will just give you a brief overview. When it comes to the domain, you might have bought it at GoDaddy, which is like the site name, right? So for example, in my case, that would be digitalempires.co. But that does not mean that they are the ones hosting my website. Hosting is sort of a service that you have where you basically borrow someone's server space. Again, I'm talking nerd here, but basically when you kind of have a small place or small house, let's say, on the internet where you can keep your particular domain, or you can park your domain, right? So let's say that you rent a garage where you can park your car, if we're putting it in those words, and that is going to be a domain. So if you're confused about how to claim your site and domain, first of all, make sure you know who your host is. If you don't have a host, get a host first, and then ask your host to help you by claiming your site if you're having tech issues. So I think when you click through, you'll be able to see basically for every different, let's say if you have a Shopify store, you'll be able to see what is the process for that. If you have a WordPress website, you'll be able to see the process for that. And I think basically everyone has a different process. So you're going to have to see what it looks like. So for example, I think for GoDaddy, you have an HTML file. And when you click through to that, you have a complete step-by-step Linux hosting cPanel help setup thing on GoDaddy. And I can tell you with a lot of at least what I believe that they should be doing is specifically when you are paying for their hosting is that they should be helping you with these tech issues. And I have asked so many times when my site has crashed or there's been an issue with my, or with, let's say, activating something like Google AdSense or activating a code, or I have to upload a file in the root folder or something like this. And I'm not a developer, so I don't know these things. And the first thing that I do is go to the hosting, support, and I open a chat ticket or an email ticket, whatever it is, and go and do that. But you have to be a little bit more proactive, because if you are, for example, a blogger who plans to have, a website-based Pinterest account, and you don't have necessarily an Etsy store or an affiliate-based account, you want to make sure that you are claiming your website so that Pinterest can actually pass you all of the SEO juice that you need to actually grow on Google as well. Because as we know, Google and Pinterest both talk to each other, and when your account is doing really well and when your blog posts are doing really well on Pinterest, they will do really well on Google as well. I have had times when my blog posts, which were not ranking anywhere in Google, get picked up on Pinterest, and they start getting a lot of engagement on Pinterest, which tells Google that, wow, this is a blog post that has a lot of engagement. It is super awesome. We need to push it up. And that has helped me grow, increase my search rankings and pull them up as well. So don't underestimate the power of actually using Pinterest correctly, specifically when you use it for traffic and when you use it to generate more sales, because there are absolutely so many ways you can do that as well. Awesome. So guys, if you have questions, now would be the time to put it in the chat. I am just going to have a look and see if we've received any comments or questions so far. If you don't have any questions, we can also take the questions for the next call. So every single month I hop on here for a live Q&A. So feel free to think about any questions that you have, and specifically if you have questions which are very, very custom to your needs and where you need somebody to look into your Pinterest account, into your website, and to give you feedback. These are the questions that you must be asking through that form, and you'll find the link to that form at the top of your profile. At the top of the Facebook group wall. So you should have access to that over there as well. How to increase the number of followers. This is also a question that I get a lot. When it comes to increasing the number of followers, again, go back to your content basics. And as of right now, if you are looking to increase the number of followers, your best bet is by hopping on the idea pin trend or getting more video pins, because that's absolutely the fastest way to grow. And unfortunately, that's how it is, even not just on Pinterest, but also on platforms like Instagram, where it was recently announced that they're no longer a photo sharing app. So that can tell you already where the industry is going. Doesn't mean that all is lost and that you won't be able to promote your blog posts and promote your content and stuff. But it does mean that if you are looking to grow followers specifically, which by the way on Pinterest doesn't matter that much, does it help if you have a large amount of followers? Absolutely, but it won't hold you back. So it won't hold you back from growing. And so I would recommend specifically hopping onto idea pins if you have access to it. If not, go into the idea pin training and see how you can ask for an invitation, apply for an invitation. And if that's not an option, then start experimenting and working with video pins, because they are being pushed out in the algorithm, which means you're more likely to get more impressions. And when you get more impressions, you get more engagement, you get more followers. So it's all a numbers game at some point, but it has to start with getting engagement first. So your content needs to be engaging first, which is why I always recommend spend more time on your content instead of doing all the tactics and spending all that time figuring out what your marketing or pinning strategy should be, because all of that comes much later. First things first, your content needs to hit the bullseye, and it needs to be something that people want to see. Doesn't matter if you're a blogger, affiliate marketer, or product seller, we all have some type of content, right, that we are pinning on Pinterest, whether that is a photo, a product pin, or anything else. But keep in mind, it has to be something that people are interested in seeing and they actually want to see. That's the absolute number one way to win on Pinterest. And then all the optimization and testing happens after that. So once you've figured out your content, and if you need help figuring out your content, use the Facebook group, ask your peers and your other fellow members to help you out with figuring out your content strategy and figuring out, okay, what are the titles or what are the pins that I should be using? And then once that is done, then step into the optimization and pinning and marketing phase. But if you don't have the first thing, you can't jump to the end of the line. Like, it just doesn't work. You need the first foundational block to be able to go all the way up to the ladder. You can't skip that block and say, if I pin 7 times a day, I'm going to have 1 million views. That just doesn't work like that. And I don't think anybody should be selling you that, because if they're telling you that, it's just BS. All right, so I think if you have no further questions, I'm going to wrap this up. Any other questions, you guys, feel free to post on the Facebook wall, and me or my team will get back to it as soon as we see them. And if you're looking for feedback related, feedback and specific content that requires somebody to look at your account and give you feedback, use the Google form that we have on pinned on the wall. Use that for the next month's coaching session. We'll be sharing a replay of this as well. You can navigate to the coaching replays on your course dashboard and you'll be able to see it there as well. Usually we upload it within the next 7 days. So don't stress too much if you don't see it right away. You should be able to see it on Facebook as a replay, and you will also be able to see it for example, within your course dashboard. Okay, so Rhonda says, are the guidelines the same if you're assessing demand of your product that is not manufactured yet? My goal is to license my idea, not to venture. Interesting question, Rhonda. So I think it's very hard to assess the demand, because when the person clicks through to something, they don't necessarily see the product that they can buy. So I think you'll have to wait until you actually have the product either in production or you start a wait list to see what kind of response there is for the product. So I would do this. I would probably create a wait list and see how many people are clicking through and signing up for the wait list. And if you have a large interest there, or a large number of people that are showing an interest, that should show you a higher demand. But if that's not the case, then I don't think that means that you have a crappy product idea. It doesn't mean that. It just means that we don't have the right means to collect data, right? Because we are just sending them over to something which is not created or manufactured yet. So I would wait, or maybe just create like a fake page where you just have a photo or like tentative photos of the idea, and you create like an interest list or a waiting list besides it, and see how many people sign up. And I think that should give you an idea about the demand for the product, because you have to have some kind of action from the person. Either it has to be a click through or it has to be a sign up, right? That's the only way that you can gauge the demand for a product. There's no other way to figure out which product is doing well and which product is not. Thank you so much for taking out the time. I hope that you guys have a great week and weekend ahead, and I'll see you in the next one.